All right, so as I mentioned before, we're going to take a look at Kofi Kid today. We're going to get this out of the way. We're going to watch the clip all the way through and just marvel in the absolute athleticism here, which is the fact of the matter is the guy jumps out the gym. Now, I'm going to take a look at this from a technical perspective just to kind of give you a little bit of context on areas that are working in his benefit. Let's get this out of the way as well, that obviously the thing working most in his benefit is physiology. Obviously, we have a quite powerful individual here, someone that utilizes quite a bit of their biomechanical advantages. But the cool part is that he's intuitively doing some things that are obviously right on point with what we talk about here at Project Pure Athlete. So the one first and foremost is going to be we're getting a nice aggressive. So this stride that we're going into right now is the penultimate stride. There is an aggressive push here. That lead leg there that turns into his plant is hinged. It's a little bit bent. Shows me that we're getting a little bit more of a gallop now. It's working for him, and when I break this down, it's important to understand that while there might be an optimal execution of a jump, that variations can work for people depending on how they've advanced over time. We have an athlete here that obviously plays at a very high level and is genetically gifted in a lot of ways, as we can see here just through the fact that, I mean, that's belly button at the net right there. So we've done some things right, and he's obviously a very hard worker. But let's take a look here through the stride at some angles. So let's hold this right here. Let's get our little pencil and let's draw some lines. So we have a really long line of action here that's creating some horizontal acceleration as we move forward. That line of action starts to change. So we talk a little bit about staying tall through the penultimate. Now, he uses a little bit more of a forward lean, but the cool part about this is, even we're getting a nice correction. Actually, let me clear that line out of there. Still relatively new to this app. But as we get into that plant and that block starts to come through, he very quickly recovers that torso. And you can tell that he starts to amortize the jump, meaning creating the power to this jump immediately off that right plant. And then boom, right here. So we talk about this concept of being stacked. This is the line that we're talking about. Ankle, sorry, I drew that line a little bit off center, but shoulder, hip, ankle. As we apply the block, the arms are blurred out. You can't really see them, but the arms are coming up through parallel to the floor as that block contacts the ground. So we're getting into all the right positions. You know, he's a strong athlete and a powerful athlete, which means he's able to change direction and change shapes very quickly. And there's very little lag off the floor as that block is punched. Now, because he was diving a little bit through this initial component here, the block goes out a bit further than it would if we stayed taller through that penultimate. But he's doing a good job here. Not everybody has this ability, and that's the important thing to remember is when it comes to kind of the mechanics behind jumping is there's variance within the mechanics, but there's a lot of overlapping principles here. We're creating speed through the penultimate. We're getting low. The hips are lowering into that plant, and that block is being punched. If we watch this, even though it doesn't play in full speed, you can see that block through quick, and he drives or punches it into the ground so that he's able to then take off quickly. There's verticality here off the floor. We're not getting a lot of drifting. That's a nice correction. That was obviously just a mistimed approach. I always like to say there's no such thing as a bad set, just a bad timing of the approach. So fix here, he's obviously high enough that he can pretty much do whatever he wants, and then comes down. And this is one thing to pay attention to as well. You jump really high, there's a lot of shifting factors. The likelihood is you're not always going to get optimal landing, but as he lands here, you can still see that he's loading this hip. Again, this video is so small, it's hard to draw these lines appropriately, but you can see that he's loading that left hip. He's not just sinking into the toe and overloading that stability joint of the knee. So really, really cool to take a look at, what's being done. And yeah, just outrageous in terms of athleticism.